This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Today we unravel a story that many wish they never had to hear. A courtroom tense and pulsing with silent anticipation became the stage for one of the most disturbing scenes in modern trial history. Shocking new evidence in the form of raw video footage made its way into the hearts and minds of jurors, breaking their collective poker face for the first time. We're talking about Richard Allen, once an ordinary man, now a defendant accused of one of Indiana's most haunting double homicides. But today, the spotlight wasn't on the crime scene. No, today it was the psychological breakdown of a man stripped of dignity and reason, a man subjected to an experience that defies the boundaries of human decency. You see, those videos didn't just document prison conditions. They documented a transformation that seemed to shock even the most composed among the jury. Eyewitness reports describe jurors covering their mouths, sighing deeply, and even looking away as scenes of Allen's degradation unfolded. It was a moment that asked a haunting psychological question: how much can the human mind take before it breaks? And is what follows a product of guilt or unimaginable psychological torture? Let's take a flashback. The defense knew they had a powerful weapon with these videos, not a weapon of sympathy, but a cold, hard look at what happens when the justice system punishes a man presumed innocent. They claimed that Allen's conditions of confinement, his screams muffled under a spit guard hood, his head chained, and his body bound, were designed to break him. And as the footage rolled, jurors saw a man reduced to near animalistic behavior, rocking, muttering, and at times self-harming. One can't help but ask, did this treatment lead to Allen's eventual confessions the defense says were coerced and unreliable? Meanwhile, a twist no one expected. Superintendent Doug Carter took the stand. You may remember Carter, the public face of the investigation, the one who promised the community they'd find justice. But here his testimony opened a Pandora's box. Under cross-examination, it was revealed that the FBI, yes, the nation's most elite investigative agency, was asked to leave the case in 2021. And if that wasn't enough, they were instructed to return every document related to the investigation. The defense had a field day with this, implying that local law enforcement didn't just want control, they demanded it, even at the expense of losing invaluable resources. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We return to the heart of today's proceedings, the defense's ongoing narrative that Allen's mind was broken by a combination of isolation, psychological warfare, and what could only be described as prison abuse. Expert witnesses are lining up to argue that Allen's confessions, crucial to the state's case, can't be trusted, not after what he endured. The prosecution, for their part, attempted to paint Allen as a manipulative figure who knew exactly what he was doing. But with each passing minute, the cracks in that argument grew deeper. From the jury box, reactions were impossible to ignore. Even the most stoic members showed signs of breaking, sighing, and shaking their heads. One juror, whom observers describe as typically reserved, was seen rapidly blinking as if trying to process the horror unfolding on screen. The emotional weight of this case, already a burden on the shoulders of these 12 jurors, had become almost unbearable. But as the day unfolded, a new focus emerged. The prosecution's entire case seemed to pivot, no longer centered on the bullet casing, but on a supposed sighting of a van that Allen allegedly mentioned during his sessions with prison psychologist Monica Walla. And here lies the defense's argument. Was this a memory Allen manufactured under duress, or something he genuinely remembered? The state insisted it was a breakthrough. The defense argued it was a sign of Allen's fractured reality. Jurors, already struggling to reconcile the inconsistencies in the state's evidence, seemed overwhelmed. And who could blame them? As one alternate juror was seen furiously cross-referencing testimony with previous exhibits, it became clear that this trial is not just a quest for justice, but a question of who holds the burden of proof, and whether that burden is too great for the state to bear. Meanwhile, we were reminded of the human toll of this case. Kathy Allen, wife of the accused, sat quietly in the gallery, her head bowed in silent agony. Her life, too, was shattered, a casualty of a judicial machine that seemed more focused on securing a conviction than seeking the truth. So here we are, staring into the abyss, wondering, can a justice system built on the presumption of innocence withstand a case as complex and broken as this one? What happens when the machinery of law grinds against the fragile human psyche? And at what point does the quest for justice become a crusade? Let's step back for a moment and digest where we are. If you're like me, your mind is spinning from the sheer weight of everything we just unpacked. It's almost impossible to discuss the case of Richard Allen without feeling a surge of conflicting emotions. I mean, here's a man whose confessions, central to the prosecution's case, are now under scrutiny for being potentially coerced, influenced by months of isolation and psychological torment. And I keep asking myself, when did our system go from presuming someone innocent until proven guilty to something that feels suspiciously like the opposite? Watching that jury today, their reactions made something clear. This isn't just a murder trial. It's an examination of how far our institutions can bend before they break. The defense has done an exceptional job of framing Allen not as a monster, but as a man who may have been driven to madness by a system designed to crush him. And let's not forget the shocking revelation about the FBI's removal from the case, an admission that should make anyone raise an eyebrow. Why would local law enforcement want to keep such a high-profile case in-house, especially when the resources of the FBI could have been invaluable? Is it control, pride, or something even more troubling? The prosecution's pivot today, from the bullet casing to the supposed sighting of a van, felt desperate, almost like a last-ditch attempt to salvage a narrative that's slipping through their fingers. You have to wonder if the jury feels the same. Do they sense the shifting sands, the lack of a cohesive story? Because in a case, this serious reasonable doubt doesn't just cast a shadow, it creates a storm. And then there's the psychological toll, not just on Allen, but on everyone involved. You can't ignore Kathy Allen's quiet suffering, sitting there as her husband's life is dissected piece by piece. Yet, the real tragedy is that no matter the outcome, two young girls, Abby and Libby, are still gone. Their families are left in a limbo of pain and uncertainty, and the community remains divided, grappling with a case that has offered no real closure. The reality is that this trial, for all its twists and revelations, forces us to confront something deeply uncomfortable. How do we balance the scales of justice when those scales feel broken? Is it enough to say that Allen has had his day in court, or does this entire process expose a fundamental flaw in our system that we can no longer ignore? That's all for now. We'll keep digging and getting you the facts. Thanks for listening. I'm Tony Brueski. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.